Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management with Deanne Phillips, Director of Client Learning and Development, CFP, Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management. Hello.
Hello, Danny.
You know, it's drilled into our heads. You do the right thing. You put away, you save money while you're working. You don't touch it. You keep building it. And it's hard to argue because that's an excellent way to build a solid nest egg to draw upon when retirement happens. But what happens when our human nature creeps in? After all, there's a psychology behind spending in retirement, and that's what we're going to talk about with Deanne. You have an additional title, ABFP. What's that?
It's an accredited behavioral finance professional. So basically, Danny, this is a unique designation program that enhances financial planning advice through a thorough understanding of the psychological theories of behavioral finance. It basically helps one understand what drives the markets and investors' motivations and thus their decision-making behaviors.
So you're the right person for this conversation. Okay, right or wrong, Deanne? We should save and invest as we go along until every day becomes a Saturday. That's the right thing?
Yes, and most people feel they're doing the right thing. They put money away in their retirement plans, plus savings. Maybe they put in a 529 for tuition. The point is they're saving money while they're working. And they're told, don't touch the money you put aside. Just keep building and investing that big old stockpile. And when the excitement of retirement's upon them and that dust settles, they realize they need to replace their work paycheck.
Once retired, some struggle with spending. So decades they've been seeing paychecks, and then they're turning into the ones who are issuing the paycheck to themselves. That's a bit of an awakening. Does that mess with our heads?
Yeah. So it's interesting, Danny, because again, they're used to socking away for other things. Like while they're working, they'll put money away to buy a car or, again, the college tuition. And they know when it's time for the money, they pull it out of the plan and it seems natural. However, for some reason, they get into a headspace and psychology of thinking when they retire, well, I'm not working anymore, so I can't let my retirement kitty go down at all because I'd have to go back to work. Well, this is obviously actually false. That stockpile is supposed to fund our retirement. But there are all these unknowns that play into our fears like, well, how long will I live? Could I outlive my money? How much will I need if healthcare keeps going up? I want to have enough to do all the fun things, right? And here's where if someone doesn't have a financial plan, if they haven't gone through the exercise of putting everything together and seeing how it all fits, their assets, their income sources, their expenses, and you build inflation and capital growth assumptions, and you stress test it for bad markets or maybe a heavy financial need from time to time. If they haven't gone through that exercise, Danny, it can lead to a lot of stress.
Even people with substantial assets, do you find that they get nervous about running out of money?
Oh, sure, because they go from hearing, don't you touch that stockpile, to go ahead, take distribution, spend it. And they automatically jump to the fear of running out of money. Now, what are they not taking into consideration? And this is very human. There's still growth happening on their assets. They're not taking the entire thing and putting it to cash and putting it under a mattress, right? They've got the power of compound interest working over decades. And sometimes, usually for women, this comes into play. Bag lady syndrome happens. That's no matter how much you have a fear of outlasting your assets and being a burden to our family.
And we've got the tools to help. One is at least I think, the inelegantly titled bucket strategy. You called them tranches once, and I thought that was much fancier.
Yeah, right. So our brains actually naturally bucket items. It helps us compartmentalize. So we do think in terms of expenses in two different tranches or buckets. The first bucket, your expenses that you have to have basically to keep your life running. So that would be, your rent, your mortgage, utilities, basic food in the fridge, gas in the car, your maintenance expenses. That second bucket is your discretionary bucket. I like to call this I want to have bucket, right? So this might contain travel, extra entertainment, above and beyond expenditures, sporting season tickets, country club membership, the things that really make life fun. And these two buckets are both equally important. However, if you think about it, the first bucket we really don't have much control over. We have to pay our utility bills no matter what and no matter which way the markets go every month. The second bucket, however, we can expand and contract as we wish. It's discretionary. We're able to control it. That psychologically gives us more freedom, especially in the early part of retirement and at really important times. If we retire into a down market, for example, look what happened in March of 2020. People retiring during COVID, right? In the lockdown, the market went down sharply. That planning in different buckets is what really helps keep newly retired people in times like that from saying, oh, gee, great, now I have to go out and get another job, or I'll have to work and not retire.
So in our last 30 seconds or so, I got to ask, should we feel guilty in the first part of retirement if we spend more? And please tell me no.
Not at all. Just be cognizant of it. People will usually spend more in their first year or so. And in fact, in the first decade of retirement, they spend more. That's their go-go years. In their slow-go years and no-go years, decades 2 and 3 of retirement, they usually spend less on entertainment and more on health care, or maybe on the grandkids. Think about it. You have more time to spend eating, drinking, being merry after you retire because you aren't working. And that involves friends, family, and travel. So follow your values. Just be aware of your spend.
Right there. It's about planning. Deanne Phillips, Director of Client Learning and Development, CFP, CDFA at Annex Wealth Management, and an accredited behavioral finance professional. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.